Hello everybody, TKDLC here, and I just finished watching the Quintessential Quintuplets, and I have got to fucking talk about this anime. So, the Quintessential Quintuplets is a show that I heard about for a very long time. I hadn't dipped my toe too much into romance. I watched a couple. I watched My Dress Up Darling, which is my favorite romance anime so far. Kaguya-sama Love is War, obviously, who hasn't watched that. Let's see, Horimiya was another one I checked out. I watched a couple of anime. I've dabbled, a couple of romance series. I've dabbled here and there. I'm definitely planning on watching more in the future. I know there's a lot of classics I need to see, like, is Violet Evergarden a romance? I don't know, but I need to watch that. Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. I hear that one's really, really amazing. So, I'm definitely gonna get to those eventually, but this is one I kept hearing about. I kept hearing it was really good. I honestly saw it like everywhere. This is one of those animes I literally just see everywhere. People praising it left and right, saying how great it is, how good of a romance series it is. And eventually one day I decided to check it out, as I do a lot with a lot of animes that I see that I see all the time. I'm looking for a show to watch and I saw it there and I threw it on one night. And I am not going to beat around the bush whatsoever. For the first 8 episodes of this show, I fucking hated it. Oh, dear God, the first 8 episodes of this show. I don't know if I've ever hated watching anime more in my entire life. The setup for this show is you have your main character, who is this guy. So, this guy is very poor, and he's kind of struggling with his family. They're living in a very rundown little place, and yeah, they're not doing so hot. And this guy gets hired as a tutor for somebody. He goes to this tutor, and it turns out that it is these 5 sisters, the one that he was a complete asshole to, and then her 4 sisters. And immediately, this guy, who I already hate because he's a dick to this girl immediately without absolutely zero, like, being provoked or whatever, just immediately is not a pleasant person to this girl. And this guy is, like, desperate as all hell to actually tutor these girls now. So he is now, like, trying to do it and trying to get in there, even though he has been nothing but a complete dick to them pretty much the entire time he's known them. And from this point, I am literally just trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to like about this show, because I absolutely hated this main character. He was such an insufferable prick every time he's on screen. But then we get to the sisters. And again, for the first 8 episodes, I fucking hated all of them. They are all such insufferable people. The only one that I even slightly liked was Miku. Miku was like, okay. She was like maybe a 6 out of 10 compared to all the others who were just awful. I hated every single one of them. And at this point, I'm wondering why I'm still watching this show, because I'm literally watching 6 absolute assholes interacting, and it's so awkward the way they go about this, where you have, like, one example, you have Miku. Miku is one of the characters that they kind of build up a little earlier in the show. And you have this whole thing where the main character, Futaro, who has been a complete dick this entire show, starts kind of chasing after them because he wants to get this job. He wants to get this job so he can actually get some money in and start getting out of this kind of problem that he's in with his family. He wants to, get his family a better life and whatnot, which is commendable for sure, but he doesn't have to be a complete dick to everybody he meets. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, yeah, life's hard, bro, but you don't have to treat everyone else like shit just because your life sucks, man. But nevertheless, you have this little bit in the beginning where where he starts pursuing after Miku, and he finds out that Miku likes a certain interest. Like, she has this weird fascination with like warlords, like old warlords. It's kind of a funny thing. And this guy just starts fucking chasing after her. Like, relentlessly. She clearly wants nothing to do with him, but he is trying to pursue this job so much. He is chasing after this girl, and I am just like, this is so cringy. I hate this fucking character. I don't particularly like any of these other characters, and I'm wondering why the hell I am still watching this show. But for some reason, I kept going with it. I got through the first 8 episodes of the show pretty easily, honestly. So, I don't know what's going on there. And as we go through the show, there is so many things through these first 8 episodes. First, we have that one where we have this weird ass guy chasing after her, and then for some reason, Miku actually starts to kind of go for him a little bit. Like, she seems to actually start, like, kind of liking him. And I am just sitting there like, why? What on earth about this guy is even remotely likable? I understand that, you know, he took an interest in the thing that you probably get, like, you know, a lot of shit for and whatnot. You know, liking old warlords. You know, that's kind of an interesting fascination. And I understand, like, maybe she likes the fact that he kind of, you know, he maybe he was the first person who ever, like, acknowledged that and actually had a conversation with her about that so she could actually discuss her interests. I get that, but the dude's still been a complete asshole, and he chased you around the fucking school for, like, what seemed like hours. So I have no idea why this chick wants anything to do with this guy. And then we just continue going, and this just keeps up throughout, like, the first 8 episodes. You have this guy who's continuously trying to be in these girls' lives, despite the fact that this guy makes the most horrible, like, Walter White level bad decisions, man. He's tutoring these girls who already hate his guts, by the way, and I hate his guts too, and I don't really like any of the girls either, so at this point I'm just like, why am I watching the show still? But anyway, he's tutoring these girls, and every single time he gets a chance to maybe be a nice person, to maybe repair a bit of a relationship with these girls who he once again is very much trying to be a part of their lives, he just insults them. He just calls them stupid and dumb and it just, I don't understand what the hell this guy is doing. Like, I genuinely hated this show for these first 8 episodes. And then we keep going. We get this little bit towards the end of the first 8 episodes where, you have to please keep in mind something. It was a very long time ago when I watched these first 8 episodes. I pretty much just binged the rest of it like a couple nights ago and then finished it today. But the first 8 episodes I watched quite a while back, probably like 6 or 7 months. So my memory might be a little foggy when it comes to this, but you get this one little bit towards like the end of these first 8 episodes where you have one of the sisters who comes out of the shower, and then there's like this whole fiasco where where a bunch of books accidentally fall on her, and then he like saves her, but then they interpret it like he was peeping on her, and then they have this like weird little trial thing with him trying to like find out if he's actually a pervert or if he's innocent. And at no point does this dude think to maybe explain what actually happened, at least in the dub. That was one thing I was like yelling at my screen the entire time that this was happening. I was like, dude, just tell them what happened. They're not fucking monkeys. They will understand if you just tell them. Or maybe they won't, but you could at least try that to tell them that you weren't peeping on them, that you were trying to help her by making the books not hit her in the face. And he never, ever, ever says it. It just keeps going with this, making these really horrible decisions, saying these really dumb things. And at this point, I just fucking can't stand this show. We get through these first 8 episodes, and I'm done. I drop the show. I'm like, this show's awful. I don't understand why people like it. I fucking hate these characters. This show is 6 assholes that I never want to see ever again. Every single one of these characters is just a complete dick. I'm done with this show. Moved on to better shows for quite a long time. But recently, had the sudden urge to go back and check it out again because I continuously heard that season 2 of this show was the reason that people liked it so much. I kept hearing that season 2 was the reason. I kept hearing just left and right, season 2 is why people love it. Season 2 is the good one. Saw that there was a movie coming out as well. And I was like, well, maybe eventually I'll get back to it. Maybe eventually I'll watch season 2. But a couple nights ago, I finally decided to do so. I was looking for a show to watch, was kind of in the mood to watch a romance show with maybe a bit of a comedy aspect to it, and I was like, fine, I guess I'll jump back into that show. Maybe I won't hate it as much. And the last couple episodes of season 1, I have to admit, not horrible. I didn't hate the last couple episodes, and I especially liked the last episode. So the last couple episodes, we get this little bit where the main character and the girls go off to this camp, basically, this little school camp, and we get a couple of very nice character building moments that made these characters start to not be such insufferable assholes. So we have this, for example, we have this little bit where the main character, Futuro, is in a costume for a little school thing that they're doing, like a haunted forest kind of deal. It's just like a fun little thing, and he's in this costume and he has like this blonde wig, and you have this nice little moment between him and the worst sister at this point, Nino, who I fucking hated. Like, I hated them all, but Nino and Itsuki were the ones that I absolutely hated the most. I hated them even more than the main character. Like, they were fucking awful. And you had this very nice little bit where this guy who was disguised, and Nino does not know that it's actually Futuro in there. She thinks it's somebody else. And you have this nice little bit where he actually kind of acts like a normal person and not a complete douche for once. And you have this nice little bit where they kind of talk and they kind of develop a bit of a relationship. And you have Nino starting to kind of like this guy who she does not know is the guy that she absolutely can't fucking hates his guts. And she doesn't know that that's him. So you have that little bit. And then you go forward a little bit. You have this other scene where him and one of the other sisters, Ichika, gets locked in this. Hello, what up? Tax wants to join. Where him and Ichika get locked in this shed. And they get locked in the shed for a little bit. And they have a nice little moment right there as well. What do you want to get on this shelf? I move Ichigo and there you go. There's gonna be a cat on that shelf. So you have that little scene as well, which was once again very nice. We're building the characters a little bit. I'm starting to not hate their guts as much. I still hate most of them, but I'm starting to not hate them as much. And now we enter the last episode, which we get a little bit more of that, and then we enter this really great scene where we literally jump ahead in the future, and we literally see the main character marrying one of these quintuplets. We're not told who it is. They show her to us, but they're all identical twins, so we have absolutely no idea which quintuplet it is. So you enter season 2, which is the one, and my expectations are through the roof right now because I really enjoyed the last couple episodes of season 1. We get to season 2, and this is the one I've heard all the amazing things about. Everybody who loves this show keeps telling me that season 2 is the reason they love it. Season 2 is the reason that you need to watch the show. So my expectations are through the roof. I'm super into it. I'm ready to go. I get into season 2, and I have to be honest. I hated this show originally. Season 2 rapidly made this show like one of my favorite romance series of all time because season 2 was absolutely fantastic. You get to season 2 and you're given, of course, that little bit at the end of season 1 where they show you that he is going to end up with one of these quintuplets. And basically, so for the first 5 episodes, we continue building up his relationship with the quintuplets and we slowly start making you like each of the characters far more than you did. And I'm going to get into that later on. I'm going to get into that at the end of this when I give my final thoughts on the quintessential quintuplets. So we start building up more characters. We get some nice little bits between him and Miku, building up her character a little bit with Itsuki as well, who's another character I really hated in season 1, but started to like her a little bit, not as much of an absolute asshole. We have this nice little bit where we have this nice little bit where we have a bit of a fight between Nino and her sisters because her sisters side with Futuro and Nino is still the worst character in the show at this point and I can't stand her guts. I want to make clear how much I fucking hated Nino before we get to what I'm about to talk about. I think I honestly hated Nino as much as I hated Multi-Mel Mark in Rising of the Shield Hero. I just said that. She was fucking insufferable in the first 8 episodes, in the first season of this show. So, we get this bit. Now we enter one of my favorite parts of the whole show, where we have finally redeeming Nino, and we have this very nice little bit where she already likes the guy that she met with, which was him disguised. And we have this bit where she figures out it's him, so we have that, and then she runs away, like, I'm trying to explain it, it's kind of hard to explain what happens, but she has a really, really, really good redemption arc in the show, and you kind of start to see her not be such an asshole to Futuro. You have this nice little bit where he comes over, and there was this whole thing earlier where because he's their tutor, obviously, and there was this nice little bit where this guy is completely poor. He doesn't have a computer or anything, and he made all of these papers for all of the sisters to help them, learn, to help to tutor them, and he had to write them all out by hand. And you had this bit towards the beginning of season 2 where Nino actually ripped one of those up, and one of the sisters was like, "Oh, why did you do that? He spent forever on that." And then you have Nino kind of regretting that a little bit, and you have this nice little moment between them, and then you slowly build that up, and then you have the reveal when she figures out that he was the guy who was there, and it's not like what you would think it would, where she'd be like, "Oh, it was you, I love you now because of that." No, she immediately is just like, "Fuck you, I hate your guts so much," and then she runs off. And then at this point, I do have to say one thing I find weird about this. After this point, you get one more little scene of Nino and she's ran off. She's she doesn't really want to be a part of any of their lives at this point. And then you have this one scene with her and Miku. They talk a little bit. She gets her hair cut. And now, from this point to the end of the show, Nino is like head over heels in love with the main character. Now, I kind of understand what they're getting at here because, there was the whole thing with her in the camp where she fell in love with the guy who he was disguised as. So I like that. And then you had all the other little bit. Like, if you watch the show, I'm not really conveying it very well. If you watch the show, you feel it a little bit more. Not 100%. I'll get into that a little bit, but you feel it a little bit more. You do understand why Nino does fall for this guy. Like, I understand it a little bit. Not 100%, but yeah, you do see it a little bit. It's a nice, sweet little, it's a really sweet little redemption arc. And this show absolutely has me fucking starstruck with my jaw on the floor because from this point to the end of the show, Nino, who was previously my least favorite character in the entire show, every time this character was on screen, I was like, my eyes were twitching from how much I could not stand her. She became my favorite character of the entire show. From this point to the end of the show, she is head over heels in love with the main character. And she is pretty much the most relentless, like gung-ho of all of the sisters. Throughout the rest of these episodes, the last 7 episodes of season 2 is basically an all-out war to see which one of the sisters actually gets to be with Futaro. And at this point, one thing I think is so awesome about this show, and this is something I realized while watching season 2, you really don't, Futaro, who was your main character for the entire show up to this point, kind of becomes the side character and the main character kind of becomes the sisters, which is something that's really cool because for season 2, in season 1, the poster art for season 1, you have Futaro and you have all of the quintuplets. But in season 2, the poster art is just the quintuplets. And I realized that while watching season 2, I was like, oh, I understand it now. Like, he's no longer the main character of the show. Now we're following the girls and we're following them where, after we had that whole bit at the end of season 1 where we showed that he is going to end up with one of these girls, you have this last little bit of season 2. You have this 7 episodes of season 2 that is literally an all-out war to see which one of these sisters ends up with him. And it goes pretty fucking crazy. Like, you have Nino, who absolutely loves the guy, Miku, who still really likes the guy and is just becoming more and more and just likes him more and more as we go through. And then we have fucking Ichika, who comes into play here. The other two, not so much, but Ichika becomes another one of them who absolutely falls head over heels in love with him. And Ichika is a bit of a snake. Like, she does some kind of scummy stuff, like dresses up as her sisters and fucks around with them in order to win this guy over. So she's kind of a schemy one, but I did like her. I did like Ichika. She was a good one. She's not my favorite of the quintuplets, but I did like her quite a bit. Cause she seemed like she just did not give a fuck whatsoever of being respectable. She was just so in. She just wanted to get him and did not want to let anything stop her. So I do like Ichika. Ichika's probably my third favorite character. Then you have Miku, who's just really fucking sweet, doesn't really do anything scammy whatsoever. She just really, really likes him, and she liked him from the beginning. Once again, Miku was pretty much the only character for the first 8 episodes that I did not absolutely fucking loathe. So yeah, you have Miku, who really likes him and is just pretty straightforward about it. She makes him food and she's nice to him. Then you have Nino, she's a tsundere, but she's a very, very likable character because she really, really, really likes this guy, and it comes across very well in the show that she has very much fallen in love with this dude. And then you have Ichika, who plays it very scummy and goes about it in kind of sneaky ways. So this show is so good at this point. I am absolutely loving it. We're on episode 7 and I'm I love this show, man. I love these characters now, except for Futaro. I still don't like him very much, but I understand why these girls like him. I do get what they're going at here. And then you have a bit more with Itsuki as well. You have this whole little thing where Itsuki starts to like him a little bit more as well. And then you get this bit where they go to once again, they go on this little trip They kind of win this raffle. They go on a trip and you have this scene where there is this little bell, tower thing, and there's a legend that if you ring the bell tower while holding someone, that person is who you're destined to end up with. And the episode, I think the 10th episode ends with one of them you don't see run at him, grab him, and then ring the bell. So that's what you're left on for the last 2 episodes, which is the absolute the finishing climax of the series, where you have basically once again the war between all the sisters to see who will end up with Futaro. And it was just really freaking fun to watch, man. You have because it was just really entertaining, man. You have like 3 characters, Ichika, Miku, and Nino, who are by far like the biggest like contenders, the most gung-ho about it. And all 3 of these characters are just really fun to watch, very entertaining, and I really, really like them. And just this last little bit was just really, really fun. And then you have that little bit at the end of episode 10 where you're like, who is it? Because they don't show it to you until the very end of season 2. So it was really, really awesome. And and then we end season 2 with a nice little thing with Miku. Now I don't really want to spoil it because it was a bit of a big deal, but we end season 2 still not really concluded because we have a movie coming out. Well, actually the movie already came out in Japan, but I haven't gotten to see it yet because it's not currently out yet. But as soon as it's out, I cannot wait to watch it because it apparently is going to finish the show, and it better freaking tell me who he ends up with, because they still don't tell you who he ends up with at the end of season 2. Well, I pretty much just spoiled most of it. Whatever, I don't care. If you're watching this, especially if you're watching it this far into it, chances are you've already watched Quintessential Quintuplets and you're probably a fan of the show. So, with that, I want to move into my final thoughts on this show. I absolutely love this show. Why do I love this show, even though I fucking despised most of season 1? That is exactly the reason I love this show. This show, it dawned on me. While I was watching season 2, it dawned on me. I was supposed to hate the first season of the show. The first season of the show was supposed to be me loathing these characters, and the second season of the show was me slowly liking the characters until we eventually conclude the story. This is brilliant. Absolutely masterful romance series this show is, because you have 6 characters who suck. You have a show that sucks. And then you enter the end game of the show. You get to the last 6 episodes of season 1 and the entirety of season 2, and this show, which you previously despised, becomes a show that you really, really, really like. It becomes a ton of characters that you really, really, really like. And that is very, very impressive. I don't know if I've ever had a huge change of heart that hard. And the thing that I think is the most impressive about this show is how it managed to keep my attention for those first 8 episodes. Because like I said, it wasn't difficult getting through them. I watched them all. I hated them. But I didn't stop watching them. Obviously, I did quit when I got sick of it, but 8 episodes in, dude, if I don't like an anime, I won't continue it past 2 episodes usually. I'll be like, nah, this show's not for me, move on to something else. 8 episodes in, that is impressive. And the fact that this show was able to make, because I thought the show was an F tier, straight up. I despised it. I went on the internet, and when people mentioned this show, I would tell them that I fucking hated it, man. And that mentality was able to be changed by the second season of the show. That is absolutely insane to me. I cannot believe that I actually do. I genuinely love this show. I love the Quintessential Quintuplets. I'd probably say at the moment it's probably my second favorite romance series I have watched. Once again, I haven't watched all that many, what I said earlier in the video, but I love it. I absolutely love this show. What it was able to achieve, making me going from a show that I completely loathed to a show that I absolutely love. I would easily give this show an S tier, easily. That is pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing, and I am going, like I said, S tier. I think this is a really, really, really amazing romance series. If you are a fan of romance anime and you have not watched the Quintessential Quintuplets, I would highly, highly recommend doing so. Yeah, this show really, really surprised me, man. So there you have it. I just really wanted to talk about the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was fun. I hope you, thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on the Quintessential Quintuplets. Let me know all your thoughts on what I said in this video. Hopefully I didn't piss off too many people. I would be, I'm sure there are people out there who do genuinely love this show from start to finish, but man, I need to hear some defense, man, because I hated all of these characters for the first 8 episodes of this show. I absolutely loathed these characters. Loved them by the end of it, obviously, but if you love those first 8 episodes, man, you're gonna have to explain it to me. What about these characters for those first 8 episodes was even remotely likable, dude? Oh, okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Guillotine, signing out.